Welcome to No Apologies on Beck. I'm your host, Lori Hins. With me, Senate candidate Rick Becker. Thanks for coming in again. I appreciate it.
Happy.
So what do you have to talk to us about today? Let me guess. Spending. Spending.
You know, you sound like the legislators in the state legislature that are like, oh, let me guess,
Here,
you have
let
a
me
problem
just
with
guess.
spending. Yes, I do have a problem with spending.
It's okay.
That's what I want to talk about.
Well, I think that's, oh, I was kidding. I wasn't.
Okay, I want to talk about spending. So, I'm running for Senate.
Right.
As the viewers likely know, and I'm running against John Hoeven. John Hoeven's been in the Senate for 12 years. And one of the main reasons I'm running, there's a couple, but one of the main ones has to do with how far in debt our nation is. And John's record of spending, which has been 12 years of big spending. And what he's been saying, of course, because people are hurting from inflation, is we must stop inflation. I think that's a quote, a direct quote. The problem is that he's the reason, he and the other big spenders, which basically are all the Democrats and then the group of big spending Republicans, which is probably over half of them. They are responsible for inflation. They are 100% responsible for inflation. It's not Putin. Don't buy that line that Biden's trying to give you.
Yep.
And so we talked, I think it was last week, about inflation and money printing, the amount of debt we have. We know that as the politicians spend the money that we don't have, that we need to print it. The Fed prints it. And as they print it, there's a greater money supply. We have inflation. And I brought a chart that we played before, showed before. But yep, go ahead and pull that up. And that's the amount of dollars in existence. And it's behind the crazy graphic of the flaming dollar. But you'll see in just the last couple of years, almost all of our money has been printed. That's how bad things are. The reason for the inflation, folks, you're looking at it right there. You don't need to look to Russia. You don't need to look to Ukraine. You need to look at the politicians that have been in office for the last couple of decades and especially the last couple of years. Now, the thing that I want to get to is we can go into all sorts of specifics, and you can get bogged down in details. But I brought a list. This is from American Conservative Union because I want to, instead of just saying something, I want to have a little bit of support, a little bit of evidence. And so we have several bills I brought for you. If we can pull up the first one. What we have here, this is in 2013, and it's for an infrastructure funding offset. And that means that the spending that we're doing on infrastructure, they were going to find a way to pay for it instead of putting us further into debt. And John Hoeven voted against that. After that, we have the omnibus appropriations. Oh, no, I'm sorry, conservative budget. So there have been, on two occasions, a conservative budget. Believe it or not, folks, this actually occurred. The ability to vote on a conservative budget. In 2013, John Hoeven voted against it. Next, we have the omnibus appropriations. Now, the omnibus appropriations is the huge spending bill where all of the senators or all of the representatives throw in their pork, throw in their special interest money, and it's so huge, nobody wants to vote against it. We're going to talk about this in the next segment, Lori.
Okay.
But yes, John voted for the omnibus appropriations in 2014. He voted for them again in 2015. These, by the way, again, are graphics I did not create. They are from a national organization that ranks on conservatism. And next up after that, we have the situation in which there was a bunch of pork thrown into the Department of Defense bill. Had nothing to do with defense. It was pork. John Hoeven voted for it. Next up after that, we've got the allowing for a larger tax cut. There was the possibility for having a bigger tax cut than we actually even got in 2017. My opponent voted against it. After that, we've got, there were spending cuts. Believe it or not, in 2017, again, during the Trump era, there was the ability to have further spending cuts. John voted against that. Senator Hoeven voted against that. And then, following that, there was the removing of automatic spending reductions. So in the system, they didn't even have to do anything. There was going to be a provision in which spending reductions were automatic. But Senator Hoeven voted to remove those automatic reductions. Again, a huge error in my opinion. In 2017, additionally, there was another conservative budget proposal he voted against. In 2019, we've got the $540 billion spending package, $540 billion. So this was a ton of money, very little oversight. Hoeven voted in favor of that. Following that, we've got the wasteful spending under the guise of emergency disaster relief. Now we can say, gosh, you know, there was COVID, we needed money. I'll tell you, this was such a horrible bill. There were billions wasted, billions of fraud, billions sent overseas. It was terrible. Nobody should have voted for that bill. Following that, we have the authorization of a fiscally irresponsible budget in 2019. Again, voted in favor. I mean, he votes in favor of all of the bad spending. Next up, we've got cronyism and out-of-control spending, $2.3 trillion spending package. Hoeven voted in favor of that. Now, and then you wonder why we have inflation. And then last, we have imposing costly new mandates on businesses battling COVID-19, advancing billions in new spending with no offsets. So here's the problem, folks. Maybe we need the money, but there was no way in the bill of how we're going to pay for it, except to go further into debt. Horrible, horrible management. And there we have really the situation where we've got a pattern with the senator of big spending. Big spending, again, is why we are in the situation we're at with all of this inflation.
So you're telling me that you're just not afraid to say no to this stuff?
Oh my gosh, I would love to say no. Anyone who knows me in the legislature, I absolutely, an omnibus spending bill, first off, nobody reads the damn things because they're too long and they get them thrown on their desk last minute. If I can't read
Thousands
it
of pages.
or have my staff read it that I trust, I'll be voting no. If it, yes, I would relish voting no on these bills. And the idea that, well, gosh, I gotta because Mitch McConnell said I'm supposed to, forget it, folks. That's not happening. Now, here's the thing. So I do have a history of voting no on budgets, big budget increases. In fact, we had way back on the show, when it was partly my show, we covered a situation in which one of the North Dakota senators was having a major issue because I was voting against a lot of the budget bills. And he was saying, you can't vote against the budget bills. Well, the thing was, I was voting against them because of the large increases. If you vote against a budget because of a large increase and it fails, what happens is it comes back, you take out the increases, then you can pass it. Now, what we have is a situation in which Senator Hoeven's friend, Pat Finken, who is also his former campaign manager, is running the Brighter Future Alliance. It's like a PAC, right, or political action committee. They're running out a bunch of attack ads on me. Pull that up if you can, please.
Okay, will do.
So here's one of 6 or 7 that they're doing. And
let's take a look at it. Here we go.
This one here is, do you agree with Rick Becker's vote to defund North Dakota Attorney General's office and its law enforcement activities? Okay, so here's the situation, folks. What happened is that at least on one of the years I was in the legislature, there was a big increase in the Attorney General's budget. I voted no. There was an increase in state employees, right? So I voted no because we don't want that. Now, unfortunately, because of this negative attack ad type style of campaigning, what they're doing is intentionally misrepresenting. What they're saying is, I want to defund the police. I want to defund the Attorney General's office.
It says, and its law enforcement activities.
And law enforcement, right. And they have come out. There was a newspaper, like a fake newspaper that was mailed to people that says, Rick Becker wants to defund the police, based on the fact that I want to be fiscally responsible. This is the twisting this is why people hate politics and politicians. And it's really sad. There was last one I wanted to bring up here. This is a chart. We may have shown it before, but I just want to show, for example, spending. The national debt is one of the biggest, most important challenges we face in America. The American Conservative Union ranked both Senator Hoeven and myself over the course of our entire political career. And what they have is John Hoeven ranking at a 42%, and they have me ranking at a 92%. I feel I want to apologize that I'm not higher than 92, but then I look at Hoeven, I'm like, oh my Lord. And then we have a graph here off to the right. On Hoeven's absolute best year, he's still not even close to my absolute worst year. So this is what I'm trying to get at, Lori. We're talking about a challenge to the United States that risks the future of our next generations, putting us into debt. Inflation, you're going to see that continue to increase. And I want to reinforce, this is not because of Putin. This is because of the politicians that are currently in office and have been in office for the last 2 years and the last 10 years. That includes Senator John Hoeven. This is why we need a change. This is why I'm running for the office. So I want to talk about abortion.
Okay.
And so here's the thing. I just mentioned how John Hoeven's friend, Pat Finken, who is his former campaign manager, is running a PAC or a similar organization that's doing a bunch of attack ads on me. Now, number one, this is very curious, I find, because that indicates to do attack ads, for one thing, John Hoeven's never had to do that. He's never stooped that low. For another, to do it at this stage of a campaign, which is pre-convention,
right? It's not even
which is
primary,
geared
right?
to give maybe some advantage to the incumbent. That's the way it's set up. That they're stooping this low at this stage is crazy to me. It just shows how worried he is. But here's the thing. So they're really digging on me with regard to abortion. So I want to clear things up. And I understand in politics they say if you're explaining, you're losing. But here's the thing. If you're explaining to people so that they fully understand what the candidates stand for, that's not losing. What we need is an informed electorate. So I want the folks to know. If you can pull up one of this Pat Finken's attack ad PACs, it says here, do you agree with Rick Becker's vote against HB 1456, the heartbeat bill, and other pro-life bills in the North Dakota legislature? And then this is, right next to it is a text. They're sending out texts like crazy, which is basically the same thing. And they say, hey, you know, respond this way or that way. They actually don't care if you respond. They just want people to see that Rick Becker voted against the heartbeat bill. Now, the story is this, Lori, and I know you know, but I'm going to say it for the benefit of the viewers. 2013 was my first session, and to be honest, I was not very secure in what my belief system was with regard to abortion. I just didn't have it developed. And we had a flurry of, I think, about 6 pro-life bills that came before us. I was wholly unprepared. I voted no, I believe, on 3 of them. And those were wrong votes. I was wrong. I made a mistake. And what I did was I took a step back after that, and I really thought things through. I made a determination of really what is the role of governments to protect life. Okay, let's discuss life. And thinking more about it, talking with people, I became very, very confident, very secure. Life begins at conception. We need to protect it. And so therefore, I was confident. I voted wrong in 2013. The thing is, though, ever since that time, I have been 100% pro-life. So, of course, the attack ad political guys don't give you any leeway to learn and to grow, to say that something is 9 or 10 years ago. But ever since then, I've been 100% pro-life. I have a 100% rating by the North Dakota Right to Life folks. And this is where we have sort of this gamesmanship, if you will, of where are we? Do we want to play the game of who's more pro-life? And it's just silly, really. But because they are doing this attack, I want to clarify for people, 100% pro-life, there's no question about it. Not only that, because I'm very, very logical, maybe to a fault. I'm logical and I'm consistent in principle. And here's the thing, folks. If we believe that the preborn is a human baby and we can't kill it, how can we have exceptions? And I know this is not politically easy, but how can you say that it's okay to kill a human baby if they were conceived by rape or incest? No fault of their own. How is it okay to kill a human baby under those circumstances? You can't. It's inconsistent. Now, again, my opponent, who's trying to dig at me for not being pro-life enough because of a mistake I made 9 or 10 years ago, has the position where he says, I am in favor of these exceptions. Now, let's move on from there. Being pro-life, being 100% pro-life, I will never, ever vote for federal funding of Planned Parenthood. Ever. Not even when it's in an omnibus bill, which is the huge pork-filled spending bill that all the big wishy-washy spenders are afraid to say no to, because the omnibus bill has traditionally included federal funding for Planned Parenthood. And I can say clearly, we know for a fact that John Hoeven voted in favor of the omnibus bills in 14 and 15, highly likely other bills, I haven't found those yet, that included funding for Planned Parenthood. John Hoeven. So when he comes at me, I mean, clean your own house, sir, before you worry about whether mine is dirty. That's what I have to say. I want to have you pull up a graphic if you would.
Very good.
We've got the Title X Family Planning Program. Now, what I'd like to clarify here is that in the omnibus bill, it says specifically that funding may not be spent on abortions. It's for Title X family planning. Now, the interesting thing is that there are caveats, that it's not technically for abortion, but it's for abortion.
It says this is from the Congressional Research Service, by the way, if you're wondering where that comes from.
This is legitimate. Now, I brought up a couple of quotes from the Title X program itself, if you can pull that up. It says here, does Title X fund abortions? Since Title X's establishment in 1970, the Act has prohibited Title X funds in programs where abortion is a method of family planning. In addition, annual appropriations laws state that the Title X funds shall not be expended for abortions. According to the 2021 Final Rules Preamble, now this is, again, I've gone through all of them over the years, but in this most recent one, the program is reinstating guidance, and basically what it says is that the abortion activities must be separate and distinct. So your money's not going for abortion, but it's going to a program in which it may share a common facility, a common waiting room, common staff, common record system, so long it is possible to distinguish between the Title X support-sponsored activities and non-Title X abortion-related activities. So basically, if there is a door between the abortion mill and the Title X recipient, which is a joke. My last slide, if you would, please. Again, citing the same government document, must Title X projects provide abortion referrals upon client request. So even though they say it's not for abortion specifically, it's just for helping people in the next room to the abortions, even here they must provide patients with the information on where, how, and when to get abortions and make abortion referrals. So this is, in my mind, over-the-top hypocrisy when someone comes at me, I'm 100% pro-life, and they have that blood on their hands for voting for an omnibus bill that includes federal money for Planned Parenthood. That's an abomination. Probably an apology is deserved.